I was coming home from deployment, my first Christmas with family in years, when Dad texted, "Christmas is better without you. Don't come." I replied with a single word, "Understood." Then I made a quiet change to some of the paperwork. 48 hours later, there were 7 missed calls, one of them from their lawyer. My name is Sarah. I'm 28 years old, a staff sergeant in the U.S. Army, and until recently, the daughter who sent half her paycheck home every month because I thought that's what family meant. I've been stationed in Germany for the past year. Haven't seen my family in person in almost 4 years. Not because I didn't want to, but because there are only so many times you can fly halfway across the world just to feel like an afterthought in your own living room. Still, this year I had hope, which is funny, really. You'd think someone trained in tactical risk assessment would know better than to keep betting on people who never show up for you. But I guess I'm human before I'm a soldier. And humans hope, even when we shouldn't. When I found out I was approved for Christmas leave, I was genuinely excited. I hadn't been home for the holidays since I enlisted. I pictured my mom getting emotional, maybe even setting a place for me at the table. I imagined my dad offering me a beer without making it weird. I even thought, idiotically, that my sister might ask about my life instead of her own car problems. So, I booked a non-refundable flight because apparently I also believe in miracles. I messaged my mom, got leave. "I'll be home for Christmas. Can't wait to see everyone." She heart-reacted the message. No words, just a little red heart. I tried not to read too much into it. I really did. For a few days, I let myself believe it would all be okay. That I'd come home to warmth instead of tension. That the people I'd been helping financially month after month might actually want me there for more than just the money. Then, 12 days before Christmas, my phone buzzed while I was standing in the base kitchen, halfway through a stale protein bar. It was from my dad. "Christmas is better without you. Don't come." I stared at it for a long time, hoping it was a joke, a typo, anything. 2 minutes later, my sister followed up. "It'll just make things awkward. Please don't show up." That one hit harder than it should have. Not because she'd ever been warm, but because it sounded like the kind of text you send about an ex, not your own sister. I didn't argue. I didn't ask why. I just replied, "Understood." I'd like to say I didn't feel anything, that I was used to it, but that would be a lie. The kind of lie soldiers tell themselves to sleep better at night. No, my heart broke. Not loudly, not dramatically, just in that quiet, familiar way where you feel something inside you shift and know it won't shift back. And then something else happened. Not anger exactly, not revenge, just clarity. That night, I logged into the systems where my name still lived. The joint utility account I'd been covering temporarily for 3 years. My sister's car insurance, which had quietly been billed to my card since she lost her job, and most importantly, the mortgage payment portal where I'd been sending money every month, even though I was never on the deed. I didn't own the house, but I'd helped keep it afloat. My dad couldn't qualify for a loan after his layoff. My credit and income made the approval possible. And since then, I'd been the invisible crutch no one acknowledged. So I made a few quiet changes. First, I shut down the auto transfers. Then, I sent a formal email to the mortgage servicer, stating that I would no longer be contributing financially, and that all communication should go through the listed primary borrower, my father. "Are you sure?" the rep asked on the phone. "It may trigger a refinancing requirement or payment disruption." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. "I'm sure." Then I did something I can't fully explain. I still took the flight home. Yeah, I know. They told me not to come, made it clear I wasn't welcome. But the ticket was booked. And maybe some sad, stubborn part of me needed to see it through, to come home one last time. Even if I didn't step foot in the house. I landed 2 days before Christmas. Didn't rent a car. Just took a cab straight to a budget motel off the interstate, the kind with thin walls and mystery stains on the curtains. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the town I used to know. The lights, the same stores, the same cold wind through bare trees. But I didn't feel like I belonged here. I felt like a stranger who had overstayed her welcome in her own life. I didn't go by the house, didn't reach out again. I just waited. By the next morning, my phone was buzzing nonstop. 7 missed calls, 3 from my dad, 2 from a blocked number, 1 from my sister, and 1 from a number I didn't recognize until the voicemail played. "Miss Carter? This is Nathan Brooks, legal counsel for your parents. I've been informed that you've withdrawn financial support tied to their mortgage. They're understandably concerned. I'd like to speak with you before this creates further complications. Complications? I whispered, staring at the phone. Now they were concerned. Not when I was wiring money across the Atlantic. Not when I was missing birthdays, holidays, entire years of my own life. No, now. Now that the money stopped, I didn't call back. I ordered cheap takeout, pulled the thin motel curtain shut, and let the silence wrap around me like armor. I was officially home for Christmas, just not where they could see me. And for the first time in years, I felt the edge of something I hadn't tasted in a long time. Control. I don't remember the first time I felt like the outsider in my own family. I just remember realizing it had always been that way. There wasn't one big event, no dramatic get out of my house moment. Just a slow accumulation of moments where I was reminded, politely, passively, or with a smirk, that I was useful but not essential, present but not central. I was 8 when my sister Emily was born. She came into the world red-faced and squalling, and my parents treated her like she had descended directly from heaven on a personal cloud. My dad called her the miracle baby, which always made me wonder what that made me, a warm-up act. To be fair, I was a quiet kid, not brooding or weird, just low maintenance. I read books, lined up my toy soldiers, got decent grades. No one worried about me, and in my family, not needing help meant not getting attention. My dad was a foreman at a steel plant back then. Big personality, loud laugh, strong opinions. He was the kind of man who believed emotion was a weakness unless it came out of a clenched fist or a raised voice. If I cried, he told me to knock it off. If I got quiet, he called me dramatic. If I got mad, I was told to stop acting like a girl, which was ironic, considering I was one. My mom was gentler, but in that vague, foggy way where you're not entirely sure she's in the room with you. She'd forget parent-teacher conferences, lose track of when my sports practices were, sometimes forget to pack lunch. But she remembered Emily's ballet recital, her play dates, her favorite snacks. I wasn't unloved, just unnoticed, unless I did something wrong. When I turned 16, I got a part-time job at a local gas station. I saved every dollar. I had this fantasy that I'd use it to buy a used car, get out, maybe drive until the world felt wider. But 1 month in, my dad borrowed my savings to fix a leak in the roof. The roof never got fixed, but Emily's Sweet 16 had a DJ and catered cupcakes. I joined the army at 19. No one stopped me. My dad said, "Figures." My mom cried, but it felt performative, like she thought that's what moms were supposed to do. Emily didn't say anything at all. I think she assumed I'd come back eventually, orbit around them like always. Boot camp was brutal, but it made sense to me. There were rules, expectations, consequences. If you worked hard, you earned something. You were part of something. For the first time in my life, I felt like I had a place. Meanwhile, back home, nothing changed. Or rather, everything changed, and I wasn't told. I learned my dad had been laid off from the plant when I saw a GoFundMe link my mom posted on Facebook. The caption said, "Hard times, trying to stay afloat. Every little bit helps." That was the first time I wired money. $2,000, no questions asked. My dad didn't say thank you, just texted, "That should cover this month. Let me know when you can send more." After that, it became routine. Power bill, car insurance, the mortgage. There was always a reason, always a sigh from my mom, a guilt trip from my dad. It's not forever. You're the only one doing okay. Emily, meanwhile, was working part-time and figuring things out. At 22, she crashed her second car. I paid the deductible and helped her get a used SUV. She sent me a one-word text. "Thanks." A month later, she posted a picture with the caption, "When you work hard, you earn your rewards." I didn't say anything. I just screenshotted it and saved it in a folder called Unpaid Debts and Unsaid Things. When I visited for Christmas 4 years ago, my last real attempt, they barely looked up when I walked in. My old room had been converted into storage. I slept on the couch. During dinner, my dad raised a glass to Emily, the one who always shows up. I didn't speak, didn't eat much either. The next morning, there was no gift with my name on it, just a mug that said Grumpy Vet. Everyone laughed. My mom said, "It's a joke." I smiled because that's what you do when you're a walking punchline. After that, I stopped going back. I still sent money, still answered calls, but something in me started closing doors quietly, one by one. And yet, somehow, I still hoped. When I got approved for leave this year, I told myself maybe they'd changed. Maybe I'd show up and they'd be happy to see me, not because I'd wired money or fixed another crisis, but because I was me. It was a stupid hope, but hope doesn't always need permission. Sometimes it just shows up. Now, sitting in a motel off the highway, I thought about all of it. The birthdays I'd missed, the paychecks I'd rerouted, the versions of myself I'd buried just to keep the peace. I thought about how I'd trained for combat zones but couldn't survive my own living room. I thought about how Emily once told me I was too intense because I didn't laugh at a meme where someone pretended to be a homeless veteran for likes. I thought about how my mom used to say, "We love you. We're just not good at showing it," as if love was a riddle and I'd failed to solve it. And I realized something that both hurt and healed at the same time. I wasn't part of that family. Not really. I'd just been financing it. The calls started 2 days before Christmas. At first, I ignored them. Not out of spite. At least not consciously, but because I didn't owe them urgency. I was done dropping everything the moment my phone lit up with a 503 area code. Done running damage control for people who only remembered my number when something broke. The first wave was small. A missed call from Dad. A voicemail from an unknown number. One from Emily at 11:49 p.m. Just late enough to be annoying. Early enough to be dramatic. I didn't listen. Then came the second wave, 7 missed calls before noon. 1 from the house landline, 3 from Dad's cell, 2 from Emily, 1 from a number labeled Brooks & Associates Law Office. That one got my attention. I sat on the edge of my motel bed, coffee cup in hand, staring at the caller ID like it might explain itself. Eventually, curiosity won. I pressed play. "Miss Carter, this is Nathan Brooks, counsel for your parents. I've been informed that you've ceased financial contributions connected to a jointly financed home. They're understandably distressed. I'd like to speak with you before this creates further complications." Complications? I muttered. Right, like self-respect. I didn't call back. I wasn't interested in being managed. I knew how this game worked. Turn concern into guilt. Make guilt sound like duty, and hope I folded before they had to face the consequences of living without me. Instead, I put my phone on Do Not Disturb and went for a walk. It was snowing. That soft, early winter kind of snow. Just enough to dust your shoulders, not enough to make anything beautiful. The streets looked the same as I remembered. A little dull, a little gray. My hometown hadn't changed much, but somehow I had. I passed the bakery where I used to buy cheap donuts on Saturday mornings. The sign was faded now. Emily once got caught shoplifting there, and I was the one who biked across town to bring her home so Dad wouldn't find out. She thanked me by not speaking to me for a week, said I ruined her vibe. I chuckled to myself, a sad kind of laugh, the kind that sounds more like an exhale with memories stapled to it. When I got back to the motel, the receptionist gave me a look. "The phone at the front desk's been ringing off the hook for you," she said. "You some kind of local celebrity?" "Something like that," I said, and went upstairs. That night, I did what any emotionally stable adult would do. I opened the bottle of cheap whiskey I'd bought at the gas station and sat in the dark, rewatching old training videos on my laptop. Not because I missed deployment, just because it reminded me of who I was when I wasn't being used. Somewhere around 1 a.m., the messages turned up. Until then, it had been outrage and confusion. "What the hell, Sarah? You can't just abandon your family. We needed that money. What's wrong with you?" But now the tone shifted. "Mom's been crying all day. Dad says he's having chest pains. You're killing them with this silence." I raised my glass to the ceiling. To emotional manipulation. Vintage 1995 and still going strong. I almost caved. Not because I believed them, but because that's what I was conditioned to do. Soothe, solve, carry. But then I remembered something my CO once told me. The silence you keep is often louder than the things you say. So I kept it. By Christmas Eve morning, the messages had gone from dramatic to biblical. There were Bible verses, a cryptic post from Emily. Some people forget who fed them when they were starving, followed by a family photo, Mom and Dad on the couch, 3 stockings on the wall. Mine wasn't there. And that's when I broke my silence. Not with a call, not with a message, just a single post. A photo album titled Just So We're Clear. Caption: sometimes family isn't who you were born to. It's who doesn't ask for proof every time you say you're tired. Inside were screenshots, bank transfers, insurance payments, mortgage statements with my routing number blacked out. Dates, totals, no commentary, just receipts. The reaction was immediate. Comments flooded in. Some cousins I hadn't heard from in years messaged privately. "Sarah, are you serious? You were paying all that?" They always made it sound like you bailed on them. That's messed up. Mom's Facebook went dark within the hour. Dad changed his profile picture to one of him fishing. Classic avoidance. Emily posted something passive-aggressive about people who thrive on drama. I didn't respond, not out loud. But I booked one more night in the motel. At 6:32 p.m., I got a voicemail from Dad. "You've gone too far, Sarah. Too far. You humiliated us. I don't even know who you are anymore. You used to be loyal. Now you're just cruel. Congratulations, you've ruined Christmas." That was rich, considering I wasn't even invited. Then, at 7:10 p.m., Emily sent a final text. "You made your point. They're freaking out. Mom's not eating. Dad's threatening to sell the house. Are you happy now?" No, I wasn't happy, but I was honest with myself, if no one else. I stared at the screen for a long time and typed a reply. Then I deleted it, instead. I sat with the silence again. And this time, I realized I wasn't waiting for them to understand. I was finally learning to stop explaining. I didn't respond to Emily's final text, the one where she said, "Are you happy now?" Because I wasn't, not really. I didn't feel triumphant or vindicated, just tired, like someone who'd been dragging a suitcase uphill for 10 years and finally let go of the handle. On Christmas morning, I woke up to silence. No calls, no threats, no guilt bombs, just the hum of the motel mini fridge and a blinking light on my phone. An unread voicemail from an unknown number. I pressed play. "Miss Carter, this is Mr. Brooks again. I've spoken to your parents, and I think emotions are just high right now. They'd like to meet in person. No pressure, of course, but I believe a calm discussion could resolve this." I stared at the ceiling. Resolve what, exactly? The decade-long family gaslighting? The financial hostage situation? Still, a part of me was curious. I texted back a time and location. Tomorrow, 6 p.m., Denny's Diner off Route 12, booth in the back. Neutral ground, public setting, fewer chances for screaming, or at least less volume if they tried. I didn't tell them I'd be bringing someone else. The next evening, I arrived 10 minutes early and ordered coffee, no food. I didn't trust my stomach to behave. The place was quiet. Low lighting, an old jukebox in the corner, holiday lights still blinking like they hadn't gotten the memo. I chose a booth in the back, the kind where you could see the door and every exit. At exactly 6:03 p.m., they walked in. Dad in his stiff jacket, jaw set like stone. Mom holding her purse like it might flee the scene. Emily in oversized sunglasses indoors, either a fashion choice or a weak disguise. They slid into the booth without speaking. Dad went first. "We don't want this to get uglier than it already is," Mom chimed in, voice fragile. "We're a family. We've all said things we didn't mean." Emily sniffed. "But posting our private stuff online? That was low, Sarah. Even for you," I leaned back. "Even for me. Interesting take." Dad narrowed his eyes. "You humiliated your mother, your sister, me." I sipped my coffee. "No, you did that yourselves. I just stopped covering it up." Emily's sunglasses slipped a bit. Her eyes were red. "You didn't have to cut us off. That house?" I interrupted. "That house was being partially paid for by someone who wasn't allowed to step foot in it for Christmas. Let's not pretend this was about logistics." Dad clenched his fists on the table. "We came here to fix this, but if you're going to keep playing the victim..." "No one's playing anything," I said, voice flat. I just stopped funding my own erasure. I reached into my coat and pulled out a folder, thick, neatly tabbed. "Since we're all here, let's be clear." I slid it across the table. Inside, records of every transfer I'd made, every bill I'd paid, a signed document from the lender confirming I'd ceased contributions, Emily's car insurance log, and yes, screenshots, all the ones they'd conveniently forgotten. Mom's face paled. Dad's went red. Emily's lips pressed into a line so tight I thought she might implode. "We didn't ask for all of that," Mom whispered. "You didn't have to," I said. "You just expected it." Dad slammed his hand on the table. "You think this makes you better than us?" "No," I said quietly. "Just not stupid enough to keep paying people who treat me like a burden." Emily ripped off her sunglasses. Her eyes were red. "You are being cruel. You're doing this to your own family." "Family is a two-way street," I said. "I've been walking it alone for years." Then the bell above the diner door jingled. I didn't have to look, I already knew. Uncle James walked in, tall despite the cane, silver hair combed back, eyes sharp as ever. He wore a coat older than me and an expression that made the entire booth freeze. "Well," he said, voice calm, "this is cozy." Dad stood up, panic flickering across his face. "James, I didn't know you were in town." "You never do," James said. "That's your problem." He turned to me. "Sarah, good to see you. You holding up better now?" He looked at my parents, then Emily. "I heard about the messages, the way you spoke to her, the lawyer, the crying. You always were good at acting, Mike." Dad opened his mouth. "Nothing came out. Funny thing," James continued. "When Sarah visited me last year, quietly, mind you, she never asked for a thing. Helped me clean the gutters, talked to me like I mattered, and when I had that health scare, she was the only one who showed up. Flew over from another continent to be there." Mom started to speak. James raised a hand. "Save it." Then he reached into his coat and pulled out a sealed envelope. He dropped it on the table in front of my dad. "My updated will, signed 2 weeks ago. Sarah is the sole beneficiary. The silence was nuclear. The house, the land, the savings, it all goes to her." Emily's mouth opened. "You're joking." "No," James said. "I don't joke about consequences." Dad looked like he'd been punched. "You're cutting us out?" "I'm finally cutting the rot," James said. "And no, you can't contest it. I had it notarized and filed with my attorney." He turned back to me. "I should have done this sooner." "I'm sorry I waited," I nodded, throat tight. "You did it in time." James turned and left. No dramatics, just the quiet sound of his cane tapping against the tile floor. I stood up, dropped a few bills on the table. "Thanks for meeting," Mom blinked fast. "Sarah, please, you made your decision," I said. "This was mine," Dad growled. "So you're just going to walk out after everything we did for you?" I looked him dead in the eye. "You didn't do anything for me. You did things to me. And now I'm done." I left. That night, back at the motel, I got one last message from Emily. "I don't know who you are anymore." I didn't reply, but I whispered to the empty room, someone who finally learned how to leave. 2 months later, I stood in the middle of Uncle James's living room, surrounded by moving boxes, and felt something I hadn't felt in years: stillness. Not silence, the bad, guilt-laced kind, but real stillness, peace. I'd taken leave again after the estate was finalized. The lawyer handled everything smoothly. No drama, no challenges, just a transfer of ownership from someone who saw me, truly saw me, to someone who finally understood what being seen could mean. The house was small, old, quiet, but it was mine. Not because I'd earned it through blood or guilt or obligation, but because someone believed I deserved better than survival. I kept one photo on the mantle. Me and Uncle James from that last visit, sitting on his porch, laughing about something I can't even remember now. I just remember the look on his face. Pride. That rare kind of love that doesn't announce itself. It just shows up. I haven't spoken to my parents or Emily since that night at the diner. There were a few messages after the will became public. Some begging, some accusing. I blocked them all and I didn't feel guilty. Not anymore. You don't owe anyone your peace just because they share your blood. Sometimes family is who drains you, and sometimes freedom is what happens when you finally stop letting them. I'm not sure what I'll do next. Maybe I'll turn the house into something meaningful, a place for vets to rest. Or maybe I'll just live in it for a while, learn how to exist without bracing for impact. Either way, I'm not looking back. Thanks for listening. Really, this story wasn't easy to tell, but maybe someone out there needed to hear it. Let me know in the comments. Do you think I did the right thing? Would you have handled it differently? And if you want to hear more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe.